Hi everyone. A few months ago, I shared 4 photos of my life before needing a power wheelchair. And I have some more pictures that I was given, again from before using a wheelchair, that I'd like to share with you. These first 2 are from my time in college. This is a picture of when I was visiting a friend's dorm room. This was in the summer of 1998. And if I'm honest with you, it wasn't under the best of circumstances. I had returned to the Bible college dorm during mid-August. Most of that summer I spent having conflict with my mother. I had changed and gained more independence during that first year of college. And if I reflect back, my impression is that my mother wasn't ready for me to come back different than when I had left a year earlier. I say this to help the youth especially continue to adjust and be able to express what you need and to be able to take care of yourself. I ultimately went back approximately 3 weeks early. I had had all that I was going to put up with at the time and wanted to be with people that were supportive towards me. It's one of the more challenging times in my life, but I had to take care of myself. This next photo is of me playing with a dog, and you'll see in this picture that there's nothing obviously wrong with my body. This was in 1998. It's another photo of when I was up in Ottawa for the time when I went to watch Billy Graham and the service that happened during the Mission Ottawa. I was staying with a person that eventually became a good friend to me and married the woman that I went up there with. In fact, this is them in this next picture. Their names are Tony and Lorianne. This next picture is from 2005. This was at a Christmas banquet that was put on for the community for people who weren't going to be with family or friends on Christmas Day. I took part in serving and greeting as well as in the kitchen. I thoroughly enjoy cooking. It's one of the best skills that my mother and grandmother taught me as a young child. I had a wonderful time at this Christmas banquet. As it transpired, 2 years later, it was necessary for me to undergo a hip joint replacement surgery. My left hip joint was taken out of my body, carved, screwed back together, and also the cartilage was shaved, attempted to be made smooth, and sewn back together. And then my hip joint was reassembled and put back in me to heal. I stayed with Tony and Lorianne during the following 3 months. the hospital had led me to believe that it was only going to be a week or two that I was going to be really weak. I spent most of the following 11 weeks in bed, very, very weak. And it was Tony and Lorianne who kept me alive during that time, the same way that you would take care of a child that's, 2 or 3 years old. They really did more than you could ever expect of a friend to do for you. That surgery in 2007 became a little bit problematic in 2008. The screws that were used to put my hip bone back together went all the way through the bone and was poking me inside my left groin. So during August 2008, I had day surgery to remove the screws, and there was something called bursitis that had formed in my left hip joint, meaning fluid was beginning to build up. This led to the cartilage in both of my hip joints tearing again, and on June 8th, 2009, both of my hip joints were rebuilt in Ottawa. Sadly, this was a last chance surgery. The right hip lasted all of 4 days, and my left hip came undone after 7 weeks. It's ultimately the events that precipitated me needing the power wheelchair and the unsuccessful hip replacement surgeries that I underwent in 2013 and 2015. But to get back to Tony and Lorianne, they really did more for me than you could ever expect of someone. I spent the better part of 8 months at their home without having to pay rent or groceries between 2007 and 2009. And then as I was adjusting to the life with a wheelchair, they continued to send down care packages to keep me going as I was adjusting to the whole change in lifestyle that you're figuring out the logistics of using a wheelchair to grocery shop, bake, how you're going to get to the toilet, shower, how you're going to even engage in social activities. It's like learning to live all over again. And it's very possible to do. I'm not going to tell you it's easy because it's not. It's one of those situations where you have to put one foot in front of the next and you keep going. And it does get easier, but it takes a lot of perseverance to reach that stage. And it's part of why I make these videos for you. I do want you to know that there is a life to be lived, regardless of what hardship that you're personally enduring. Whether or not it's from your own decisions or life happened to you and you're facing adversity, you still can overcome and enjoy life in the midst of challenges. I want to speak a minute more about that Christmas party the photo is from. When I had my left hip joint replaced in 2013, one of the clergy in that city came to see me in the hospital and told me of something absolutely amazing that his church does for low-income families. During the months leading up to Christmas, the members who have the financial means of doing so go out shopping and buy presents that are donated to the church. these presents are typically for children. And then in December, the church has a sale for low-income families from the community to come attend and buy these presents for their children so that they can have somewhat of a normal Christmas. When they sell these presents on, it's sold at like 20% of the retail cost. And the reason it's done like this is to give dignity and respect to those who don't have the financial means of affording, going to the big box store and buying games themselves or presents for the children. And the reason why you wouldn't just give it away is because of that dignity and respect. It's meeting someone where they're at, and in a practical sense, it provides for the community. I would certainly encourage you to start a program like this in your community and help those who really are struggling to afford clothing and games and groceries so that the young children can live and have a reasonable quality of life. And I understand what this means. My budget is extraordinarily tight on the pension that I receive from being disabled. So I understand what goes on and the tightness that can be felt. So it's about giving dignity and respect. It's the same thing as when I've been to a local soup kitchen for a meal. They're very accepting of you. Not everyone is set out to be sort of a host or a greeter in these environments. But it's about giving love, acknowledging people as their own person, and meeting them where they're at, and then providing practical needs for life. I was very inspired by hearing this minister talk about what his church did for the community. And it's really something I'd like to see grow across Canada and the world. I do believe that Christmas is about the birth of the Lord Jesus. I still am okay with celebrating with family and friends because that's part of what Christmas is about. And sharing love and memories with one another, even when there's been hardship in the year. I remember the first year that my mother died. It was a whole year of firsts, where there was the first birthday, Mother's Day, Christmas, and, the big family get-together where she wasn't going to be a part of. It's something to think about when you know somebody that's died. There was an awful lot of support up front when my mom died. And then it kind of weaned off. There was another friend I made named Oliver. He happens to be a physiotherapist. And it's truly been God ordained. Oliver's helped me over the years with my treatment in light of the shrinking healthcare budgets. And he's been good to me in trying to sort out the issues that I have, although there's no immediate resolution, but he's been good to work with me instead of focusing sort of on healing, day-to-day life and what's practical. So I share these few things about Oliver and Tony and Lorianne to encourage you as best as possible not to burn your bridges. You never know where someone's going to pop up in your life again that was from the past. where you need them or they need you. There are relationships that are situational, that may be based on going to school together or going to the gym together, and they reach the natural conclusion. Sometimes these pop up in your life years later, and there's still a friendship to be had under different circumstances. I just turned 40 years old about 6 weeks ago, and I've lived long enough to have this happen. So it's another thing that I want to share with you. As best as it is, depending on you, try to make relationships that count and are worth something. I hope you've enjoyed this. I enjoy sharing my life with you. I'm very grateful for the support that I receive locally, and it's wonderful to be able to give something back to those online. Thanks for the time that you spent with me today. Bye for now.